Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 16 of Being Vulnerable. Got a special guest for you today. Um, I'm Carpool, aka Chris, or other way around. Samuel, or would you rather be called Dr. Universal?
Either's fine. Everybody calls me Sammy.
Sammy. Sammy.
That's what that logo is. It's Sam with an E, not the same, but Sammy. And I invented that. That is my. I know it's reversed, but that is. I made that when I was 16 and I was in detention, and I'm like, I need a logo. Like McDonald's has a logo. Like logos are effective. And in fact, if you ever look at any history, logos are considered spells.
They're
Yeah.
considered spells.
Yes, in ancient times, not everybody could write or spell, if you will. And so an image that was worth a bunch of meaning was a spell, in short. And I just found that always so fascinating. So, yeah.
That is fascinating. Hadn't heard that before.
Oh, good. Yeah, I love bringing little tidbits.
Do you want to introduce yourself to the world in a bit? What you
Uh,
do and
Sam, I am a pretty much self-made person. Didn't really have much support in life through people. Um, just a lot of difficult experiences have created and sculpted my ability to you know work with people and work in difficult situations and find positives in them. So basically what I do is I build things and I fix things for a living. I solve problems, as I say, and it's very rewarding. um, but I love music, and I do that for fun. And I also like people who do music because they're like a special breed. A creative person in general is a special breed. And I think that people who create are some of the most mentally uh, unique individuals I've ever met. So I like being around creatives. Yeah. And so it's great to meet you and everybody.
I could say, yeah, music school, like when I was in music school, there was a lot of unique people that were like creatives and stuff that were, they're always fascinating to just peek inside their mind. Film was a little different though. Film, because not everyone is like the creative mindset. There's a lot of mathematical, like a lot of the camera people are very mathematical rather than like the directors are the ones that are like the more um, unique individuals in film and
Mm,
actors. Uh, some actors. there's,
yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of actors that are very um, pretentious. Um,
Well, you get that with musicians too.
yeah,
I just think it's a type of person. So not everybody's gonna, yeah, we're not all gonna fit into that realm. But I find that, some of the most interesting people are those archetypes, um, creatives in general. And you're a mixed bag. You're right. Some of them are extremely egotistical and very pretentious, and I understand why. I mean, it's very difficult to put yourself out there, and there's different approaches for different people. So
yeah, and I feel like a lot of them too just have they're acting the confident role.
yes.
That is something I struggle to be confident. And when I try to be a little confident, I always feel like I'm like bragging or being cocky, and I'm like, oh yeah, not not to brag.
Well, that happens to me. Initially, people will think that I'm very prideful or egotistical when I'm actually very fact to the matter and just try to, convey relevance. And that's a very hard balance. But usually, once people get to know me, they realize that I am not very prideful and I'm not very egotistical and I'm not all these things that are the worst case scenarios that we like to apply to things because we think we can put all the pieces together with limited information, which is one of my biggest frustrations. I think a lot of that actually comes from media. We want to know the end. We want to know where this is going, and we're almost primed to do that as a culture. because of our saturated media experience, but that's just my opinion. Um, and I don't judge people for it. I mean, I see the mechanics of it. Again, it's a byproduct. So everything will have a pro and a con. Every invention has a pro and a con. And we like the pros. We like the good things. And in getting in those good things, we sometimes forget that there are other things attached to it. So I don't judge people for that. I mean, I get they're on their own journey, you know. They're
Yeah,
learning. I've made a lot of, silly statements or things that people could take wrong and have taken wrong. And I find that interesting sometimes when people jump to a conclusion. Um, Instead of trying to correct their disillusion or their misconception, I actually let them run with it. And it shows me a lot about their personality. And I'm not here to like prove somebody wrong or anything. So it's like I actually get to know all their inner workings and they really don't know anything about me. So it's kind of funny.
I was called fake the other day by somebody online, and I was like, I've never actually been called that before, but that kind of threw me off, like because they assumed I was fake. Their assumption of,
What platform or what was the context in some way?
well, I was defending transgenders on Threads. I saw someone I was following. They like posted, this is what a transgender thinks they look like, and this is what they actually look like, and it was like bullying basically. And then there was like hundreds of people commenting that were all just bullying. Like, I went through it because I was like, am I the only one that's gonna stand up? So I stood up for them, and I just started getting attacked by them all. Um, and then yeah, someone was like,
Wow.
"You're such a fake person," and all this stuff, and I'm like, "You don't even know me." And I was like, "I'm gonna change the world," and and I was
Oh,
like, "Block."
yeah, it's an amazing thing. People are amazing sometimes. I'm sorry that that happened to you, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like I was the only one in the right.
It's very difficult to help people or even stop bullying on the internet. It is so removed for most people um, that yeah, they don't hear your inflection. Another thing is that everything can be taken two ways. Almost
Yeah,
every single thing can be taken that pro and con thing. It's an innate part of the physics of reality. Light, if there's light, there's dark. If there's this, there's that. And so it's so hard to convey something properly in text. Text is not my greatest medium, and I can definitely see why something like that would happen because there are a lot of fake people in summary on the internet. Actually, most people can't tell what is real and what's fake. You might have been a robot to them, and they wouldn't know. You might be like a AI bot nowadays.
I did end up reporting a lot of them because
Oh
that's
yeah.
that's part of the you could report someone for bullying and hate speech, and all of them were having hate speech. But
Well, like anywhere, I mean, you're gonna have negatives and positives. So you take the good with the bad, they say, and it's good of you to stand up for what's right. I actually try to do that too, um, but I definitely pick my battles nowadays because when I see a lot of like what I call a piranha or viper group like that, I'm just like, I'm just gonna block. I'm not even gonna bother. I'm just gonna go ahead and just eliminate these from a potential ever. So I just start blocking people now. If I see like negative stuff, and it's not to, I don't jump to conclusions either. I am a very concise, very slow to learn about somebody type of person. I don't judge somebody. They may be having a bad day. I may be misperceiving their intention. So but there are definitely that block button is a vital tool for people who actually do care, and yeah, and that report button too, no doubt.
yeah, like just from my experience of like being in Denver and stuff, I'd go to a lot of these bars and stuff, and it was always like I never felt like completely welcomed in some of these places, and I'd always be kind of looked at like, or some of the stuff was because they were more fancier bars. I didn't go to the cheap dive bars. And but there was a time when I went, or it was my best friend's birthday, and they wanted to go do karaoke night at it was a gay bar,
Mhm.
and I felt so welcomed in that place, and everyone was so kind, and like it, that I was just like, this community is something that it's they foster a welcoming community, and yeah, and just like that aspect of even I have some friends who are trans, and they nicest people ever, kind-hearted people, and so it was like I don't understand how people could bully them, and they have to fight their own, for themselves a lot. But just their courage to be themselves. Like I wish I was that courageous.
I
Um,
think you are, dude. I really think you are. You're doing it right now.
I,
And right. And that's kind of that message I was saying about the musicians in the group and the artists in the group is that we're all putting ourselves out there, you know? That takes a lot of bravery. I know a lot of talented people who never put themselves out there. And they suffer because of it, you know? They really do. They're always in a dissatisfaction, and it does take a lot of bravery to be different. I was different. I had red hair and I have red hair and freckles. My name is Sam. Sam I am green eggs and ham. I was made fun of my whole life. I wore the Charlie Brown t-shirt because we couldn't afford clothing um, from when I was little. My father was murdered, and he was robbed and killed for his pocket money on the street, and the kid got 2 years because he was a minor. I just think it's kind of interesting that you know, people use these terms. They use these terms to define somebody like trans or gay, and they are trigger words, and they can be hurtful, you know, when said wrong. And we use them, and right now, especially with everything going on, you know, with the trans movement,
yeah,
to bring it back, you know, there is a lot of animus. There's a lot of animosity in general. People don't understand things. Maybe you have good examples of a trans, right? So here's one thing I say. You have good examples. Not a lot of people have good examples. Like I have a lot of black friends. I have good examples. A lot of people don't have that. Or Spanish friends. That EP that I did, um, it was my first rock album EP. Those were all Spanish guys I work with, you know, and I have good examples. And not everybody has access to those good examples. So I don't want to judge people for having animus. I just want to prove them wrong. So often in my life, I've been judged with animus for being a white guy. It happens all the time. I don't have a support network. So I built one of like-minded people and hoped that maybe we could generate something like that. And that's kind of the movement I'm going for with the group, you know, and is not to fit into the norm. It's supposed to be different. It's supposed to be a bunch of different people getting together and working together and breaking some of these boundaries. I don't know. I think that's great that you have good examples. You know, not everybody has that. Go to the gay bar, you know, so they won't even put their hand out to receive the good example, which is a big thing too.
yeah,
You got to be open minded to have a good example. So that's valid, man. It takes guts. I love poetry. That's how it all started for me. Is I was venting and getting it out, and it was very healthy. And that's the other thing about creating things is that it's a very healthy process. That we need each other for motivation. That's where that whole thing came in, where I thank people for the motivation. It's like you've just inspired me to do something just by being there, by being present. So that's really valid, and that's part of the thing. I mean, I probably wouldn't have gotten this far with the group if it wasn't for Neko stepping up and being like, "Hey, you have a good idea here. Let's try to work together on this." And you know, I really appreciate that because I can't do everything by myself, and it's more fun with other people.
building community. Um, I I've been a community builder at my colleges, starting student organizations and just like starting little groups of people just to hang out and do stuff. Because I feel like it was I didn't have that growing up,
Right.
and then I still didn't have it, so I had to build my own community, kind of like how you were doing and how Neko's like community builders are
They're a special breed.
there's a special breed and they're rare. Like
Yes.
they're everyone's looking for community, but you know it takes a certain selflessness to build it for people.
I've really never had much help doing anything. I basically work with people on such a level with everything that they're like, I just couldn't have done this without you. So that's a big humbling thing to hear from me. That's a very nice courtesy for, but I couldn't do it without them either.
I'm finally collabing with people. That's I've all I did what 3 years in music school. Couldn't find one person to make a song with.
Oh,
Um,
no, really?
yeah, couldn't find one person to be a band member for me. So
Dude,
I
it's tough. It is so rough getting people on board with anything. No doubt. I get it.
yeah, especially as a songwriter, a lot of them because they view the songwriter as the one who's gonna control the song, and it's
Yeah.
we're we're playing your music. We're not making our own music, but that's not how I wanted to do it at all. It was just my skill. I could write poetry and put it into songs. I mean, I'm not the best singer, so I'm always looking for people to sing my music, but
Is that I can take an idea, like if you have a general idea and it may be rough, I'm not going to judge it for what it isn't. I will look at it for what it is and bring that out. And I think that's a gift. A lot of people can't do that. We have a very critical mind as a people. We're like, oh, this isn't that or this isn't that, and we want to generalize it and we want to put it into this box that we feel comfortable with. But I think that's so unhealthy
yeah,
because we're missing what something is then. So that's that duality thing that I talk about all the time. Life is balance. And a lot of people don't know that. We're not taught that stuff. We need good examples to show that stuff. And that's what I'm trying to do.
I kind of have that little gift too, because it would always come out when I was helping workshop people's scripts and everything. I was able to see the story, see other ways for them to view their own stories, and be able to give them ideas in that way.
As a carpenter, as a builder, there's a saying that there's more than one way to do anything. I'm sure you've heard that. There's also more than one way to view everything, as we've discussed. And the interesting things is usually there's more than two ways. So it can be very confusing. But the point is that through what you're doing, you're inspiring people, and that's a gift. Not everybody can inspire people either, and that's really cool, man. I have no disillusions. I know what we're doing is difficult, but I'm also very optimistic and have achieved great things with very little. And I'm not going to brag about what my accomplishments, but just know that through baby steps and just a continued effort, a relentless, unceasing, continued effort, almost achieve anything. So I do have high hopes. Building with people and trying to just work together to achieve similar, like-minded goals. And I think through that is endless potential that people often are like, I'd rather support something that's already established. Well, they don't need the support because they're already established. Or I'd like to do my thing. Well, everybody can do their thing. It just takes, people working together for mutual efforts. Any great civilization is a byproduct of people working together. And that's how you get stuff done. You get a bunch of people who are talented. They all put their best in. You take the best of the best and you put it together and you have something. The problem is that people don't see that vision often.
Yeah.
They don't, because they're not in those business models. They don't understand business that well. They just want the outcome. Well, I'll be honest with you. No outcome that's worth your time will ever come out of hoping that it'll happen for you. The only outcomes that ever work out to the best benefit for you are the ones you put in 100% on, and you keep relentlessly applying yourself to them, and they do end up working. You do end up finding the right people. We're almost afraid how somebody is going to take something. I mean, but in my realm, I respect a truth sayer. I can take anything you say, and I appreciate that. In fact, it's more of an insult if you lie to me. But a lot of people, they want people to like make them feel better. So they just want but you don't gain from that. Like, I don't know if you have ever had this experience, and I'm sorry to keep going on this, but this is a big one. Oh, that sounds great. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
What do you get from that? Like, okay, thank you. But I've had a lot of people say, hey, you know what? It sounded pretty good. They call it sandwiching. Some people approach it that way. I've been pretty good about it. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in there. I think if you just tune down the highs on that one point, you really got something great.
Yeah.
And you can deliver that nicely. You can deliver that nicely. It just takes a little bit of care. You actually have to care. And you can't make people actually care.
Constructive criticism is I forget how I was taught it. I think it was like two compliments before you give them two compliments and then you give the criticism. Make
Well,
it constructive though,
yeah,
like
well, yeah, it's called sandwiching, right?
oh
It's one compliment, a criticism, and a compliment.
yeah, yeah.
And so I realized that by putting myself around truth sayers, people who are actually willing to tell me the truth, I think it takes a strong person to deliver the truth and accept the truth. And we're not really surrounded by a lot of strong people or good examples. And so we get fearful. Um, but I think that's the point of having a good network of people. I actually had the most mean comments about my singing voice my entire life. Just stick to rap. You can't sing. Um, don't bother. There are too many good singers. I could probably tell you every insult, but I took it. I took it. And I realized something is that it's not that I was a bad singer. I didn't do the practices ahead of time to cultivate where I wanted to be. And one thing I'll recommend is doing vocal warm ups and practicing regularly. In 2 years of regular practice, I had people being like, damn, dude, like, okay, yeah, that sounds good. And that was the first time. Have you ever heard of, you know, terrible singers that made great songs like, Arlo Guthrie or, you know,
Lou Reed, as everyone always called me.
yeah,
They say I sound like Lou Reed.
dude, these people are not opera singers. Like, they're not. I am not a professional singer. I never took a vocal class in my entire life. I was in chorus, but what I realized is confidence and scales and practicing your warm-ups prior make all the difference in the world.
Yeah, my singing is one of those things that, yeah, like after doing, I never gave up trying to sing because I love singing so much. There's just something about it that allows me to emote, express feelings. Um, and I had like a few really good professors who didn't try to change my voice.
Mm.
The one who called me Lou Reed, my songwriting professor, he told me never to let anyone try to make me into like a pop singer and everything.
The confidence thing is huge, huge variable. I had zero singing confidence, and you could tell when I was by myself and my wife was listening to me sing, or and it was like, oh, wow, I could see why you do this. Why was I getting so shaky vocally around different people? And it was because they're extremely judgmental. And we're kind of like, we can sense that. Body language is 75% communication
Yeah.
ish. You know what I mean? It's like, where do they come up with that number? But it's a high percentage. Body language is like 50% communication, if not more. Whatever, inflection is another big part, but you can tell a lot about what somebody's thinking by their body language, and that can throw you off in singing. My confidence was the issue, that and warm-ups. So if that
Oh,
helps you at all.
it's it's strange. Like I have so much confidence when I karaoke though. Um,
But that's a pre-composed song.
yeah, and but it was also the first time I got actual validation for my singing. I
Oh
got
wow.
I would hold karaoke nights all the time because I was an RA, and I would just do it so I could sing. I got it on camera. I watch it all the time just to give myself more confidence because no one had really heard me sing like that. They seen me do like a heavy metal song, and then I went on, and then you could just hear the crowd like gasp, and they're like, "Oh my God!" Like I got all of their validation and confidence. All right, like I got that recording on camera, and it's something I remind myself a lot. Like I go and watch it just to remind myself there are people who like my singing. And then I ended up getting a little cult following after that. They called themselves the Christenators, and they would leave me little notes on my doors. And
I've performed in front of thousands of people. It wasn't getting in front of people that was the issue. It was the confidence singing. So after that, it like opened up the beginnings, and I kept harnessing the moment as you're, you've got it in video, or like, you put yourself back in that headspace or back in that, and you regain that confidence back. It's like you need those moments. And you know, the more moments you have of that, or even just the one, is kind of like a mantra. It's like a mental positioning. You're like putting yourself in the headspace to achieve the goal. And you need those. You need those. That builds exponentially. And then, as you practice the vocal warm-ups before you sing, I swear that was a huge thing. And you still make mistakes. We're imperfect humans. We're gonna make mistakes. But that's the great thing about editing. You know, you can try and try and try, and you'll get it. For certain things, um, it'll take more than once. It'll take an honest person there with you, and somebody who's willing to say a little bit of coaching, because just like everything else, and just kind of like what we were talking about before, when you're in it, it could be anybody. They don't even have to be very knowledgeable all the time, coming in from an outside perspective and just saying, hey, here's what this looks like from this outside perspective, can provide all the clarity necessary.
yeah, I mean, that's one of my biggest struggles too, is trying to be my own producer.
Yeah,
Um, I
thing, dude.
yeah, it's yeah, because in those moments I'm not able to like I would be so much better if I had a producer
Right.
when I make music. I could produce other people's music, but when I make music, it'd be so much more helpful because even
Yeah.
producing it gets you in that analytical kind of mind state too, that takes away from the creative kind of mind. Like it's a completely different mental state you have to be in to produce.
You're splitting your focus.
Yeah,
You're a producer and the artist. If you could just solely focus on the artist and the singer, I found that to be the most profound uh, key component. I didn't even know. I never had it. I never found anybody capable of doing that either. I mean, or in my proximity, because I moved. What happened is I moved. So I had a very successful business doing building and everything, and the taxes and everything, and everybody was moving in from the city, and I couldn't buy property to raise a family. And my whole life's goal, as you know, my father was murdered, and I never really had a very big support network anyway. Um, I basically was looking for a place to buy land. I found my wife, and we got married, and we were like, all right, so where are we gonna, where are we going to start a family? And I'm not a very rich person. I never really had many people supporting me, so I'm a self-made person. And we traveled all over trying to find a place to live. And so in doing that, I relocated, and I really lost all my people that I could be like, hey, come in the booth, come in the studio, and help me be that, that ear. But if you have somebody to network with locally, um, I tell you, it'd probably 50% dramatically improve whatever you're doing, just to have that person present.
Yeah, I moved to my college was 2 hours away from where I live now, and so I like lost everybody. I don't have a single friend I could hang out with.
That's how
Um,
I.
yeah,
That's
which
why I cling to the group a little bit. I'm like, oh wow, I have like friends. I mean,
yeah,
my buddy calls me. We have phone conversations, but it's not the same. I just added him to the group. He's actually a really cool guy.
my best friend I got from Threads now, Kenny Spectraphon. Me and him chat all the time. I mean, we we'll even play video games and stream live. I mean, because he moved too, so he had the same situation of like not really knowing anybody in the new city. And then yeah, I mean I talk to Paula all the time. I talk to Nekos all the time. It's so it feels like yeah, I got friends again. Even though we're not in proximity, the support that I've gotten from them has been life changing in a way. And then all the people I've kind of done these with, it's like having friends again.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's why I get excited when someone that I went to college with or someone that who finally joins Threads, and I'm like, hey, and I get all excited and introduce them to the community.
it's that if we all do a little, we can achieve a lot. And a lot of these things I've said, and then they appear on shows or whatever. But I've been saying a lot of this stuff for a long time, and they are adages that I've built my entire existence around. Um, it's just interesting how motivating it is to have a couple people, helping. And they don't even have to help that much. Like, I'm not asking for the world. I'm asking for like a direction. Are we going the right way? You want to throw in a little bit. And that can make all the difference. That is actually the difference between things failing and succeeding, is having a couple people there to say, yeah, let's try that. Look, oh, here's what my idea is. You know how many bad ideas I've gotten or have had, but I've gotten from people, and they're like, this may be a bad idea, and they'll tell me this bad idea, and I'll be like, yeah, but that's not a bad idea, because if you actually take that idea and you just do this to it, for example, it becomes a great idea. And they're like, wow, that is a great idea. And I'm like, well, it's your idea. I just put a different spin on it.
Yeah,
So it takes bad ideas and it takes confidence to represent those ideas. And then it takes somebody to be like, huh, maybe there is something there.
because I mean I dealt with that in film school. It was only to my junior and senior year where like people had to sign up for films that I got crew. Like my first 2 years, I was basically doing everything by myself because I didn't, no one
Mm.
wanted to be in a crew with me. I was kind of ostracized because of my age. And yeah, and what also there's also the money aspect, being, and, people knowing that I was poor, people, you know, my films didn't get that much funding and all this stuff. But then I ended up creating my last semester in school. I created something called the People of Color Creative Alliance
Hmm.
to help people find community and find crew and like the people who aren't being supported. For even for for the music students, for the art students, for the animation students, and then yeah, it's I left that legacy at CU Denver though, a a community to help rise the people who are not getting the same support that everyone else was getting.
Well, you didn't, I mean, you started that seed there and it's growing, and you also know that it's possible. So you hold that and you're bringing it in wherever you go. I mean, you're bringing it into this group. Um, you're bringing it into what you're doing by trying to elevate people and letting them tell their story. So you're living it. I mean, we place those restrictions on ourselves by that, by just by that thought, you know, like I've had, is this my greatest song? um what I do is almost like everything new is the greatest that I can ever do. And it's a you know, some people say that it's like unbridled optimism, but I actually say that it's actually confidence for the right reasons. It's not egotistical confidence, it's so that I can achieve more.
Yeah.
And if we psych ourselves out by wondering if the past was our best, we're not focused on the now.
Tell the world what you got coming up next.
Well, I've got the 75 track. I just submitted it to my mastering artist. All the songs are already done. So I'm doing that. I also have a rock and roll EP, well, not it's an album, full-fledged album that'll be coming out. But really my focuses are these playlists, getting people on the playlists, um, and building a community of people who want to support each other. And I mean that artistically, that's pretty much my limit. I've got things that are done that are being processed by other people, and my main goal is actually, you know, being an example of how we can help each other through action. I don't really like talking about a lot of things and like, oh, we're gonna do this, and I like showing people stuff. And so some people might think that, you know, um, my intentions are different or whatever. You know, there's a lot of bad examples we can hinge on. My intention is actually just to be a positive thing, because there's just so much negative out there. And I've always been that way. If you ever listen to any of my lyrics, pretty much everything that I write has a positive outline. And I live that. I mean, like I said, I fix problems for a living. That's what I do. I am a problem solver. Why? Because I've been through a lot of crap. I've been through. I have seen a lot of errors. I've seen a lot of flaws. I look at it from an outside perspective, and I'm like, how can I make this better? And I've always said, you know, the best solution to any problem is being the solution. I mean, I said that before. It was very cliche to say, you know, be the solution, be the change you want to see, right? But I've always said, psychologically, the best solution to a problem is being part of the solution. I mean, so some of these things I've adopted through giving people the credit they deserve. And that's kind of what the group's about too. It's just allowing people to have the credit they deserve. It's not easy to motivate people, and there's just so many bad examples. Again, it's like being vulnerable. Okay, perfect example. Being vulnerable. This is perfect. You know how hard it is for some people, especially dudes, to be vulnerable. Like you're asking them to expose something that could be used against them, right? See, the thing is that it is hard to be vulnerable. It is hard to put myself out there to y'all. And you don't know me. I can't even convey what I'm trying to say properly in a text format. You know, just between us, I mean, and the group, I don't even let my clients text me detailed information. I've told them, if you need to know something, call me. And they're like, but everybody loves texting. And I'm like, I don't. You know why? Because so much can be lost, and it's so difficult. It is so challenging for me, but you know, I'm doing this through text format, and it is extremely hard. So thank you for appreciating what I'm trying to do, because it's not motivating people and getting them to trust you in this age of like constant deceit everywhere on the internet, or things can be used against you. You know what? That fear is only going to hold us back. And being vulnerable is not easy, but you have to be. You have to do things that aren't easy if you want to get anywhere.
Yeah, like I mean, I'm the same. I don't really text. I'd rather see someone in person and talk to them. I'm not re even that great on the phone, but
Me neither.
just tone wise, I'm horrible with tone sometimes, and people always take it the wrong way or think, especially when I make a bad joke, people think I'm serious, and
The jokes, dude. Yes.
oh man, that it's. Luckily, the people on Threads have been very patient with me. Um, so it's been a little easier because I mean it was the whole reason why I wasn't on social media for just the longest time. But
Is because it's like you're putting yourself out there, and you can be taken the wrong way pretty easily. It's just super easy. And especially nowadays, because we're almost, again, it goes right back to the beginning. We're almost tuned in to the worst case scenario. It's like, oh, this could potentially happen, or that could potentially happen. And we create the narrative of the worst case scenario. I have that conversation with a lot of people, actually, how we apply the worst case scenario to the whole. Often people assume the worst, but that's only their own fear. It's not that the worst is happening.
yeah,
They're applying the worst to everything around them. It's actually it's what we as a people need to combat by being good examples. And that's what this is about.
yeah, I mean I had to change because it made me so negative all the time when I was always assuming the worst out of everybody and always being that everyone had like the worst intentions towards me and like stuff like that. But when I was able to change that mind state and assume the best out of people, um, it took away all of that like negative aspect of and allowed me to, love and trust everybody. I know not everyone is worthy of trust, but um,
Give them a try.
give them a try. Yeah, give them a second chance. You know,
There's a psychological proof to that. When you have a color in your mind, like red, you will notice red more in your surroundings. It's the same way we prime ourselves to see what we want. And so that, what you just said is basically an innate truth. Um, and it's not easy to trust. And I've had a saying that I'd like to tell you. It's very important. Um, to me, it's sculpted everything about me. Is that the world is full of evil and always has been full of bad, but I'm not going to change who I am and what I feel is true to me because there's bad out there. There's always going to be that element. There's also going to be a good element. And if I can be part of that good element and keep myself protected, obviously, not allow myself to be, exploited by the negative, there's real strength in that. And there's real strength in that that can inspire others to do the same thing. And the more we do that, the better the world becomes.
yeah. I mean, I had to cut out a lot of people out of my
Yeah.
life when I realized how negative they were. Some of them are family members that,
Yes.
but me, I mean, and they just did not like my positivity and my optimism, my hope, things like that. That, yeah, they would always try to make me more negative.
And if we listen to those people, even if they're your parents or your family members, that can be the most defeating thing And you don't have to cut them out completely, but I have found that everything in moderation, some people you just need to keep far enough away to protect yourself. And good for you, because that's not easy, especially when you don't already have tons of people around. It's hard, but I hope that we can become friends and that we can help each other. And you don't need to rely on negative people in any way, shape, or form moving forward,
Yeah,
because I think it's really important. I think it's super important to have those positive people around you. It's vital. One thing that I feel sometimes is the most hard thing is cutting out family members. Um, but if they love you, they'll always be there. If they care at all, they will show it from time to time, and that's enough. You know, that's enough. And we can say hi and we can be cordial. And I don't need to give you my optimism, and you don't need to give me your negative, negative, and we're good. We're good. You know.
especially being around them. It's a little easier through like text and stuff, but when I'm around them, I just feel all the negativity, that energy that's just it brings me down. Yeah, like emotionally, it brings me down too.
Have you ever hung out with somebody for like a few hours and you started picking up their mannerisms? Has that ever happened to you?
Um,
Like a friend or
yeah,
something?
I mean, they're it'll happen with language. I'll start
Yeah,
picking up, yeah, the way they say things or all these new vocabulary words. I'm like, I've never said that in my life.
perfect. That's exactly what I was getting at. Is it so words are extremely powerful. Have you ever studied the what's it called? The Emotions of Water. It's a book. It changed my life. It's a book. It's a study. They took 10,000 beakers of water and subjected them to different words. Each beaker reflected its environment. If you are 75% plus water, what do you think happens to you? You take in these words. They're just words, but they have an effect on you. They have an effect on all water. How could they not have an effect on you? You are a water-based being. It's valid, man. All that stuff is it's just a valid innate knowledge. And the more that we're told about this stuff and apply it to our everyday lives, it improves not only our lives, but everybody else around us. How can that not grow something great?
What's crazy too is that's first philosophy. They like the first philosophers were like, water is God.
It's like breathing. It's like, as soon as you start applying this stuff uh, into your everyday, it's things just start working together better. I don't even know what to say other than that. And working together better is, you know, going with the flow. That's actually my how I got my name, Universal. It's like I have a bunch of crazy stories, but I had a lot of near death experiences, and there was no stopping anything. I mean, it could have been one way or another within seconds. And I'm a product of people actually caring. I wouldn't be anything if it weren't for people actually caring and genuinely caring enough to say something or to do something at the time of need. And the biggest thing I can do is give that back out there and to be that for other people, because I would be nothing without it.
I've had a lot of near death experiences too. Um, I mean, I got shot at and a bullet stopped in my headrest. Should have went through my headrest.
Holy cow.
Yeah. Like
Dude,
even the cops are like, this doesn't make sense. This shouldn't have stopped in foam. Yeah.
see, that's the thing. You're like, yeah, their reaction was, this doesn't make sense. Have you made sense out of that? Did you gain something from that sensible wise? I mean, like,
that there's a reason why I'm still on this planet.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Buy that. You can't get that out of a class. Nobody, and that's it right there. I'm a product of the universe. I'm a byproduct of the love of something, and I believe that love is a force in the universe. Just like water is a force on this planet, in the universe there is a force, and that force I think is love, and through love anything's possible. Even stopping a bullet, bro. And who knows why? Nobody can actually tell you why. So the best answer is what you just said. Maybe there's a reason that I can't even comprehend. And
Yeah.
that's fine. That is a fine answer. You know why? Because I don't need to know every inner working of every little thing and examine it to the minute microscopic level to believe that it's right. I just take what it is for what it is and use those mechanics to the benefit of myself and others. I'm happier for it. I don't need to prove to you that there's a reason that I exist, but I will show you that I've also been through crazy things. I don't have to give you all the examples. I think you and I know just by this conversation that we've both been through some crazy stuff.
That was just one example.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Dude,
Uh,
exactly. And each of those examples gave me a fresh perspective of what is truly important. Each time something pivotal like that happened to me, I was like, wow, like I was really focused on this and that, and those are not very important. Those are not very important things. Like if everything was gone, wouldn't I regret, you know, thinking or putting weight into those things? And it's changed me. It's
I have mirror, I think they call it mirror synesthesia, where if I see someone in pain, I could feel their pain. Like I
yes,
actually have the physical sensation of it.
yeah, I'm that way.
And maybe that's why we're good at building community, and that's why we want to do it, because it's also it's not just physical pain. I could feel people's emotional pain to a point sometimes where I don't even know what my emotion is because I'm feeling
Right.
their emotion.
Yeah, it's a tough I think a lot of people they don't know how to deal with this stuff or even where so that's another thing. The unknown. So why I talk about this is because when you don't know what something is, it's way more scary.
Yeah,
This me? Do I need, something to fix this problem or like but no, I think a lot of this stuff is healthy. Like these are healthy things that you're able to do and just simply by knowing where it's coming from or the mechanics behind it, it takes away the fear of it. It allows you to use it as a tool.
and I wish I would have learned that younger in life.
That's what I'm saying. You don't hear about this stuff. People don't really talk about it very much, especially in our society. But in other societies, there are, you know, these are innate truths. And ancient people did just innately know this stuff. Why? Because they weren't so focused on, computers and all these other external devices and the run of, these were, I think, innate truths. These were just knowns. Like people just knew this stuff. We didn't even have to talk about it because it was actually just part of the system. And we lost that. We lost that as a people, and I feel like it's important to rebuild it.
Yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, I mean, some people might see this and not ever even known about synesthesia. That's one of the documentaries that I made, but I couldn't, or I had written about synesthesia, because it's such a fascinating thing to be able to see. Because what I wanted to do is I wanted to show the world of how this girl sees the world, how everything is colored, like, and it would have been such a, I mean, it may make more sense as an animation, maybe as a cartoon documentary of it, but yeah. It's just fascinating to be able to see how someone else could see the world completely. Like voices have different colors, so certain like big thing. She can't go into crowded places because all of a sudden she just sees all these different colors, and it's so overwhelming that she usually has to just cover her eyes. And, yeah, it's just fascinating, the seeing sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, through
I
colors. Yeah.
first my first album, Music Minded, after a study of the human mind listening to music. And they found out that the human mind, it gets crazy active. Crazy light show goes on when they listen to music, and not just any music, music that really resonates with the individual. And it could be along the same genre, but one song will resonate with them, far more than another. And they're all classical or they're all opera or whatever, but this one causes so. And I just heard that story from a client. Their grandfather, when he listens to songs, sees sound. Um, I just think that instead of that being like you mentioned, when she's in groups, okay, so yeah, there's overstimulation byproducts sometimes with certain things, but there may also be huge benefits to having that sense.
She she's a painter.
Right.
She will listen to a song and be able to paint the color of it.
Dude,
Yeah.
when we accept these things as gifts and not as a hindrance or some sort of deficiency, we can actually make great things. And so that is the point. Well said. I'm so glad you told the story.
Yeah, she has her favorite singers that's like the most beautiful colors that she's like the Beatles, I guess, paint their colors with harmonies and the colors blend and mix. And yeah, she says Beatles are the or the Beach Boys too. The Beach Boys, like the harmony wise, it the blending of different colors is just like it's so fascinating.
That's so cool. I'm
Yeah.
so glad you told me that.
Yeah, so I was always like, what color is my voice? It's yeah. She said I was like an off purple, which was like so cool because purple became my favorite color and later on in life.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but
Yeah, and by being brave and by exposing, our truths and by sharing and using these gifts, we inspire each other. So you've been a huge inspiration to me by doing what you're doing, and I really appreciate your stories that you shared with me, man.
thank you everyone for joining. This has been Being Vulnerable. Um, Sammy, Dr. Universal, go support his music. Go check out everything he's doing. Get connected with him too. He's a great soul to have in your life. So, and we'll see you next time on Being Vulnerable.